to go back to the end of junior year during my college search. So Navient has this cool thing called the Supermatch College Search, which every counselor ever recommends. More or less on that search, it asks you if diversity is important to you on the campus you're going to. And I hadn't really thought about it because I just kind of assumed that the whole world was as diverse as Ben Davis's. But it's not. So that search was when I kind of started to realize that I really cared about diversity and that I wanted to do something with it. So I started talking to some of my friends towards the beginning of senior year who had just made the jump to college, like Seven, Victoria, Ezekiel, Gonzalez, a bunch of pretty close friends of mine, and they all said that their college campus was almost like culture shock to them because they were suddenly surrounded by a bunch of white people and they saw no one who looked like themselves. After learning a lot about that, I couldn't shake the thought of what am I going to do next year on the campus that isn't anything like Ben Davis? Like, how am I going to fit in? How am I going to feel comfortable when I'm seeing not what I'm used to seeing? It was a pattern in my life. I couldn't shake it. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my capstone. So I figured, why not do something about diversity since I can't stop thinking about it? So I formulated a plan. The first thing that I kind of decided I wanted to do after talking to Mr. Allison and Mr. Woodard, I wanted to create a podcast series, but I had no idea how I would do that. I like podcasts. I've watched podcasts, or listened to podcasts. But I was like, how am I supposed to create something that I know literally nothing about? So I decided that if I wanted to take on such a daunting task, I was going to need some help. So I talked to my friends, again, who were on college campuses. And I was trying to figure out who I wanted to use as a good resource. I was trying to decide if just anyone would be a good resource, anyone who came from Ben Davis, who was then on a primarily white campus, or if maybe some people who didn't come to Ben Davis and they were used to being on a white campus, then going to a white campus. I wasn't really sure. But I knew that social media would be a really great way for me to kind of get out there. It's not too hard to get a decent following on Twitter, and it's not too hard to get some word out. So I knew that Twitter would be good. I just didn't know what it would be good for. In order to fully understand that I really, truly wanted to do this, I surveyed the Ben Davis student body. 463 people responded, which was great. As you can see, people like diversity. Kids who go to Ben Davis like being around people who are different than them, just like I do. I asked them what they liked about diversity, and I had a million responses, a lot of them very similar to it has prepared me for the real world, or I just like hearing about other cultures because I'm not used to them, because it's not my culture. I knew that I really wanted to do this, so I made a first attempt. Miss Coyne was my savior during this. I met with her. She gave me a lot of advice on what types of questions to ask, as did Mr. Woodard, and she gave me a lot of contacts for different people on different campuses, which was great. I had a list of like 20 schools. I had an email address for at least one person to every single school on my list. I also had phone numbers, and I had a really, really just organized spreadsheet of anything I could ever need to know. She was my savior. I did lots of planning on that list. I wrote lots of names next to schools. For example, I wrote the name 7 next to Ball State because I knew that I could use 7's help with Ball State because 7 defends Ball State. I sent out 1 million emails. Of my 20 schools, I emailed anywhere between 3 and 10 people at each school, and I emailed most of them twice. I got almost no responses, which was very frustrating, but Rose Holman was very good with responding. I talked to multiple people via email, and they really wanted to help. They really liked my project, and So I made a visit to Rose-Hulman, which was very exciting. This is a quote from Miss Ben, the director of the Diversity Center there. She is amazing. I interviewed her as well as Mr. Jordan, and they both basically said that they're willing to do whatever it takes to get their campus to be more diverse, and that they've made lots of improvements since they started working towards that. They gave me lots of good numbers. They gave me lots of cool packets. They were very interested and they care about diversity a lot. So it was very obvious to me that Rose-Hulman was making just really great improvements. But since Rose-Hulman was literally the only school to respond and try to make progress, I had to come up with a different plan. I knew that I couldn't make a podcast series after only interviewing 2 people, because then that wouldn't be a series, that would be a single episode, and that's not what I wanted. So I went and I met with Miss Coyne again, who saved my life again. She gave me more contacts. She helped me realize who I should probably just let go and not try and reach out to them again, because it wasn't working. And she gave me more hope, and she gave a lot of really encouraging advice to help me keep going. I was super disappointed in my project, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought it wasn't worth it anymore because no one was responding. It felt like no one cared about my project except for me and Miss Ben, and she was great. So I sent out, I think 13, 14 emails that night to even more people, new people, the same people. I was basically begging them. I said, if you aren't willing to meet with me, can you at least answer these 6 questions, please? I just need you to answer a question. I got 2 responses out of those people, which was, again, very disappointing. So I just decided that I would have to do it all on my own, and that I wasn't going to get any help from anyone. There was born University Diversity IN. It is my website. On University Diversity IN, I have pages for different universities. So currently I have a page for Butler Up, and I have a page for Purdue that is up and online. I also have a page that is all about current mid-Davis students. I have even more statistics than those I showed before, and I have maybe 100 quotes on that page, all just proving how important diversity is to Ben Davis students. So I now have an example of something up on my unpublished Ball State page. This is a quote from Seven. I was able to ask him 4 very quick and easy questions, and this is just one of the super great responses that I got. Most of my pages on my website that feature a college have interviews with current students on their campus. There are a few schools like Manchester that I don't know anyone who goes there, so I can't get that personal response from someone who has been to Ben Davis, who has lived Ben Davis's diversity and now lives Manchester's university. So I do have a few schools that won't have quotes like this, but most of mine do. All of my pages, however, have statistics like these, shocking statistics, like 81% white at Butler, which is crazy to me. But I have undergraduate diversity, I have male-female ratio, I have staff diversity, I have the whole shebang, and I have links for all of my facts so that anyone who is a little skeptical can see for themselves. And I also have my Twitter. So my Twitter is a little different. It's UNIV Diversity IN. It is a place for me to continue the conversation, for me to ask questions to people, for me to retweet articles about diversity so that people who don't know about diversity can learn, because it's so important. Diversity is just so important. It's also a place to spread love and positivity. I recently have retweeted some exciting news about Butler increasing their diversity staff, which is great because more staff means more change. And it's also a place to remind everyone just how important diversity is. For example, DePaul has had some pretty serious race riots recently, and just by retweeting those, people can learn that we still face these problems every day, especially on college campuses. And if you know that bad things are happening, you're more inclined to care about it. So what's next for me? I'm headed to Purdue next year. Boiler up. Purdue has 5 diversity centers. They have an Asian diversity center, they have a Black culture center, they have an LGBT center, they have a Native American, or Native, how do they word it? Is it Native American? I'm not sure. They have a center for literally everything. They are almost like museums. They have a lot of information. And I'm super excited to visit those centers all the time, to be super involved in Purdue's campus's diversity, because I care about it a lot. And my University Diversity IN website will live on for any junior or senior at Ben Davis, or sophomore even, who wants to learn about diversity on different schools in the state of Indiana. All they have to do is ask their counselor. Their counselor will have the website URL, and they can just go and do some research. It'll have all the statistics. It'll have stories from kids who were just like them, who graduated just a few years ago. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. Are there any questions? Yeah.
Are you interested at all in sort of like passing the torch down to maybe future Capstone students so they can continue your project?
I hadn't thought about that, but that's honestly a really good idea. If someone were to be interested in diversity next year and want to do a project, I would love for them to take control of the website and find more schools, maybe go outside of the state of Indiana, like Ohio, Illinois, because we have a lot of students who go out of state but not too far, so that we can learn about their diversity as well. That would be great. Yeah?
When you go to Purdue, you go to Purdue, right?
Yeah.
If you go to Purdue, are you planning on like working with any of their like people on the diversity staff or like things like that?
I would love to. I'm going to be super busy next year. I'm going to pre-med, so I won't really have a lot of time, but I do plan on spending as much free time as possible working with just spreading awareness about diversity and getting more people to care and be active in the communities. Yeah?
What negative impacts does lack of diversity have?
In my personal opinion, I think that when there isn't diversity and everyone comes from the same background or has the same religion or same like economic upbringing, everyone thinks the same because they've lived the same experience. And then there's no way to grow as a person if you just live in the same thoughts. I think that you have to be exposed to other types of people and other kinds of people, hear their sides of certain stories to understand if you're right, you're wrong, if there's room to grow or room to not grow. So, thank you.